Today is day 242 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. If you would like to sponsor upcoming Shir or more of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please contact me directly. It would be very much appreciated. Today we're doing Simon Kuf Sameches Sif Yud Gimel to Kuf Sameches Sif Yud Zayin. We're going to be Kuf Sameches for a while. Good Gimel. Shir Kazais Ukachati Beitza. Shir Kazais is a half of an egg. Kvar Osal B'Yordeh Sim Mishushin Chaptal Shishlosh Gdolei Olam Omud Chpot Al Kol Shurim. So the Chazanish was not at the time of the Arukh HaShulchan, but he's one of those who came subsequently and said so. But Nadi Bua is more famous, was the one who was most famous prior to Chazanish for having stated this opinion. They found two measures for challah that we found in Chazal by Shir Echad Kibbetzim, one measure by eggs, the Shir Echad Betzbos, and one measure by fingers. And they contradict each other if one measures the fingers. That's what they said. Bags in our day and age have become smaller. A mechza to a half. Now, based on Shivus Man Chach Me'ashas, relative to eggs that exist at times of the Amoraim. Therefore, the share of Gazai is the size of our egg. Rabias could be Sholosh Beitzim until my mind. And Rabias would be the amount which 3 eggs displace in water. That is Nadi Yehuda. And the Gra and the Balatani. All the Reishmaim are meticulous about this in the cup of Kiddush and Abdullah. If he's a gam kizayis have a kibetza. This kizayis is today's kibetza. One of the great gedolim argued on them. L'chasm sofer. Banachtu b'yaron sham gamken. Abetzim gamken shabim. We explained that eggs today are equivalent to eggs back then. But eggs aren't equivalent to each other. Nor from country to country. Who's pretty much a kadmon relative to everybody else speaking here. The fingers are equivalent in all places. It is more precise. We beat us at beitzim from the measure of eggs, which are not the same in all places. I'm astonished those who measure by our eggs. Eggs are different in very different places. There are thick ones like in the land of Edom, which would be, say, Italy or Europe. Those there are thin like those in the lands of Ishmael, which would be the Arab countries. Or maybe the Muslim countries, the egg is not supposed to be too large or too small, but rather medium. Priceya or Golanska, whatever these hens are, say they came to the country. The egg was much greater. Than the eggs of our fowl. But now they got intermingled with each other, interbred. And the distinction is not so recognizable. We brought evidence from our perception that kazayas cannot be the size of our kibetza. Chazal say that the throat can contain the size of an egg of a hen. According to those who say that that's really 2 eggs of ours, the sense denies this. In other words, you can't fit all that in your mouth at once. Rather, it's still like Arukh HaShulchan himself holds that the kazayis is a kazayis, and he rejects the other Nadi Yehuda at all, according to this point, the Chazanish, who say that the shir has to be doubled. Mr. Bura says, look at the Shari Tshuva, they determined that you should distinguish between the things which are derabbanans, the doraisos. And in terms of doraisos, such as kiddush of the night time on Shabbos, you should have a cup that l'chatchila holds 2 kibetzim. Now, I just want to say that the lore in the yeshiva world, which no reason to assume is untrue, is that the grandson of the Chavetz Chaim, I think it's Rabbi Zak, who was Rosh Yeshiva in Hebron, but I'm not sure, would not use his grandfather's becher because it was too small, according to the measure of the Chazon Ish. So obviously it was, although he held that he wanted to be machmir, he was not machmir like the Chazon Ish. I think that we saw Salanter's becher, they say, was even smaller, 2.7 ounces, which is even below the 3.3 ounces, which is the shear of Reb Chaim Noeh, which would be the shear of non-doubled eggs. In the Chazon doesn't really double the egg. It's 4.1. Doesn't double their vias. It's 4.1 ounces according to the Chazon Ish. But there are shurim which are different and slight variations, many variations on this theme. You doubt. Isa Gemara, the pas above Kisnim. The Gemara says that a pas which comes in kisonim, whatever that means, sounds like pockets, right? Mevarach la b'rei name is to make a b'rei meals on it, v'lo hamotzi and not hamotzi. U'mao pas above Kisnim. What is a pas above Kisnim? Is baruch fanenu. We'll explain. It's only if you eat them as a snack. But you make a meal on them. You have to make a motzi on them. And you have to bench on them. You have to wash on them. Initially want to eat a little bit of the mazonos. So you made the mazonos. And then you ate much more. You have to bench. That's only if you didn't decide. Beginning was eating to a lot. Ella, just was the reality. The cake was good. He ate a lot. Only because he started off not thinking he's going to eat a lot, then it was not relevant. Not relevant. Even in the middle of his eating, he decided to eat a lot. Shir Kabir Suda, when from the time he changed his mind until the end of the time he's going to finish eating, there's not enough time for him to eat the shir, which is make it a permanent meal, a real meal. And you don't have to wash nor make hamotzi. But for the very beginning of your eating and decide to eat a lot, you have to wash and make hamotzi. So if a person is being kaveh suda on a cake or Danish or something of that sort, yeah, they have to make a motzi if they know better ahead of time. What is kfiyas suda? The formal meal. It doesn't have to do with your intent. But that would you call yourself sitting at a formal meal. Any meal which other people would consider to be a formal meal, Mikra Kriyas is called a formal meal. You have to wash because you have to go through the whole 10 yards. Gemara says, anytime other people would make a suda of it, you have to make a bracha based on the consensus. If you make a shir which normally other people would not regard as a formal meal, that's what make it, even though you are satisfied by that, and by you it's called a formal meal. Which is also called the bracha, which abbreviates the 3. The Butler Taitzokoladam, we negate your perspective relative to the perspective of the rest of the world. Bialacha writes, nevertheless, it seems clear that if he is an elderly or young who eat relatively little by nature, then if they ate the shear that they would normally eat to be kovei suda, because since everybody in that category suffices with that amount of food. Back to Arukh HaShulchan. Batam. The reason why we go by most of the people in the world, not by you particularly, the sugar said, because what you ate, it doesn't have the shame of a shear for motzi b'rechus hamazon. It satisfies you. So say being satisfied for something which has a bracha other than mazonos or a motzi. Time because the reason for all this is Mishum Shemin HaTorah and Chirak Kedei Sviyah. The rice you only chai to bench when you get to the level of satiation. I'm sorry. It says, eat and be satisfied, and then you make a bracha. According to many some poskim, the rice of the birchas hamazon suffices with one bracha. As Chachamim tiknu arba brachos, and Chachamim made 4 brachos. Chilas kezayis. That's only when you eat a kezayis. Lo tiknu rak b'pas gomer, and only with absolute bread. Pas kazu, this pasaba b'kistim, whatever it is. Lo tiknu rak b'shir shkul and kavil l'absura. So they made the sakana in a measure which everybody would make regardless as a meal. Tezan. Yeshua, those who say the arba beitzim ushir kviyas suda. Those who say the 4 beitzim is the size of kviyas suda. Klamar meaning shochem mi pasaba b'kistim shir zeh. When you eat from pasaba from the whatever pasaba b'kistim is, the shir mikre kviyas suda. This is called a formal meal. Those arguments those who say no, this kviyas suda is the minimum share for the minimal meal of a poor person, and a shashiru b'zel eruv, and they reckon that for the purpose of eruv tchumen, etc., that would be sufficient. But a proper meal, he chatzi omer is much more. It's like half an omer. Sharei omer l'gos yorad amon b'chol yom. Because in the midbar, an omer fell for each person, which is like 2.5 pounds, because where challah is about 5 pounds, shir challah, which is the omer, so about half of it for each meal. It's substantial. That he got for 2 meals a day. This chazal say, so it means this measure is healthy and blessed. This shir kviyas suda chatzi shir challah, or is the shir of kviyas suda is half the shir of challah. She litra v'chetzi. Ubemes roim b'chusha k'shir arba beitim ein bo k'dei sviyah klal v'achilas haray. That's why Arukh HaShulchan, he says, even though it says basically beitim is kviyas suda, we see that that's not really satisfying to a person, and therefore that does not generate the chiyuv because the Muslim deraisa, but only that significant amount, like 2 pounds. Is that brackets chengos of chayadim klal nun dalad b'nish masolim shisham me'agrosh ein dato nochem shir dar beitzim. God was not happy with the shir for eggs. Ayin sham uboru shishitamo k'mosh kasavnu, must be as like we wrote. Yeshua says several achronim and the Grohol they should make a motzi because the Muslim unless you have the shir, which is the shir of the formal meal of morning and evening, evening and morning. Nevertheless, the chatchila is best to take into account the opinion of the machmirin, and therefore not to eat 4 kibbetzim of the mazonos. And certainly with something where it's unclear, according to the strict level of the law, if it is pasaba b'kisnin, you certainly should be chayshish for the machmirim and not eat too much that you get into the twilight zone, perhaps chayav, perhaps not chayav. Yud Zayin, Yeshua and those who say, Shim ochel zein basar o shari tavshilin. If you're eating the bread with meat or other types of cooked dishes, ubezeh oifen, yesh mesudas keva. In this manner, they're considered to be a formal meal. The bottom, even though we eat them by themselves, they're not considered to be a formal meal. Now, in this case, mikre kviyos, because you're eating them, saying the lafes is abbas to give condiments on the bread. It's called kviyos, a formal meal. We'll talk to you about baruch hamotzi v'abiras mozon. The wash and say hamotzi v'abiras mozon. V'im ushav saber mimenu kam below lifton. If you're satisfied with it, even without a spread. I'm sorry. If he's satisfied with that, even without a spread, but others are not satisfied with this measure unless they also have a spread. This is also considered to be the halacha, as long as you're sabeh from it, even without the spread. Okay. By the way, this is basically the shita of Moshe Feinstein, that there is no mazonos bread because when you eat it as bread. Because if you eat it as bread to accompany a meal, must certainly serve as a sandwich, then that's considered to be using it as bread, and it is bread. It doesn't require the shear of three beitzim. Those who add on to say, I feel him ochel belifton, even eat it with a spread with savea, and he is satisfied this way. Other people also satisfied with this measure. Nevertheless, you call the shear of 4 beitzim, and that is the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Sharatim writes that this satisfaction is not necessarily complete satisfaction, but rather the amount you would eat at a formal meal. This, of course, is the shear of the shita of many poskim, especially Hasidic ones and Hungarian ones. That's why you can get a meal going to Eretz Yisrael where the bread was not designated as Zonos bread, whereas coming from Eretz Yisrael was designated as Zonos bread. Because coming from America, they follow the Pesukim of Rav Moshe Feinstein. Bread eating to accompany a meal is bread. And going back to follow the Pesukim of the Badatz in Yerushalayim, that bread eaten with a meal is still not considered to be Kriyasuda unless it's a passable Kisnin. It falls like a category unless it is the shear of 3 or 4 kibbetzim. So therefore, if you don't get a roll that big on the plane, it would be a mazonos roll. Okay, back to Arukh HaShulchan. I'm astounded at all this. We really are lenient, bend over backwards in order to make an Erev Tchumen with the minimum amount of food for 2 meals. Maybe somebody came from Mishnah Erevin, maybe all this way. Misharim b'pas muat, and Echo believed them that they reckon with the little bit of bread which you eat with the spread. Because they're little kaimu and kain, and nevertheless we don't hold that way. Kanoi the pig alayu, that like the Tanoim will argue them, but it's really Misharim b'pas muat. Bread, you don't take into account the amount you would eat with a spread, which is less, but the amount you would eat of bread by itself. Because and certainly in terms of being machmir in this matter, we don't say this because the imkain haim blem shein lem shiur. There's things which are completely different for different levels of people. Many rich people eat lots of stuff. Tavshim tovim, the good delicacies. And they eat only a little bit of bread to accompany that. My shur the Arabaitim was there. How are you going to get the shir of 4 beitzim for this? And because it's satisfied, well, it's not satisfied because of bread. Array is a commission sava of peiros. Satisfied by fruit. La moti, because the most nothing to do with making a moti or with benching. So everybody says you don't join together the spread in order to determine 3 or 4 beitzim. It's only the bread. He says the Rishonim do not discuss this. Mishnah Bura passed the Magavram, they ate it with meat or other things which are a spread or accompanying the bread. It is in fact enough to eat the shear that other people are normally going to be satisfied from when they also eat with other food, with lifton, with spread, or whatever the case may be. So Arukh HaShulchan says that you take out the bread by itself, and therefore it would be 3 or 4 kibbetzim, like the not nosat of Arukh HaShulchan. It wouldn't be relevant to each person, relative to each person. Whereas according to the Mishnah Bura, it would be relative to each person how people eat together with spreads. There's a long bracket here. Magen Avraham may be right. Meitaisis usmak shekasa lachmanios. They wrote about rolls, the cover like Purim, where they Purim like where they make food on them, like on Purim. But we say the Purim ain't ochlim pas bilvad. This is inferred that on Purim we don't eat bread by itself. To be honest, I am astounded to social. Is that what they're referring to? Hemu rak the Purim aderech likbasuda lachmanios. They're just saying Purim that it's there to make a suda on rolls. They should call shana aim aderech likbasuda. The rest of your people don't usually use rolls back then. What does that have to do with anything else? Begam mashkas bagraz the achish beitzim lo sabei avarach burning mazonos. The Shulchan Aruch Rav writes that if up to 6 beitzim, if you're not satisfied, make mazonos. You musavei, be satisfied. You told you that avarach hamotzi berachas mason. You can watch the motzi and bench. You musavei. I'm sorry. Mishish shumah achati yisaron. And if it's more than 6 beitzim, up to half of the isara, im eno yusaveh yivarach alechem acher. Is not satisfied, you should make a bracha on other bread. Not sure what that means. Ansham. Koshem lo yadati. Says Arukh HaShulchan, I know this shiurim. Halahochen acharav olam. We got the majority of the world. Kemish kasa batzmo. The chatzi yisar and shir sulu kol adam. Ma lano od. Since that's a shir, according to the Shulchan Arab, what do we need more? The man sheish kan Hashem b'rvuvei dvarim fusi chadashim sheitiku misiduro. I think there's confusion because some of the new printings copied the Baal Tana's psukim from the Siddur. And the Shulchan Aruch of the Rab and the Siddur Rab do not go together. Okay, so it seems from the Arukh HaShulchan that no, not even 3 kavor kabeitzim. It's now it has to be 3 kavor kabeitzim. She's saying that there are poskim who hold that's even more because people are not so bad, but it's 3 or 4 kabeitzim. So the chush is made in that, and therefore he actually is inclined to go all the way up to half an omer, which is 2.5 pounds. Until then, not to say passable kissing is a kavir suda. Yuches b'day, you show the kishkam going to tzarchu kekruchya. They shouted like this wild bird. Amashi spashi b'doreina b'chol medina. The custom in our generation, all the country. Shiva is a simcha when they make a simcha. Orchim shulchan kamine dogim. They make a hors d'oeuvres with several types of fish, kamine basin, several types of meat. But clean pasta bakis, and they eat it with pasta bakiskin, whatever that is, cracker, cake, whatever. But clean below this time they eat without washing, without motzi, without making motzi. The brichas motzi without benching. The brichas mitzvahs just make it so of mikya. But also my bemo, the heat lot me a glucose from the little sweet rolls. Me a challah of oil shemen and the challah which is based on an oil base. Shekrin bemo challah. The ancient subject was that the chicken to the dime a motzi and a brichas motzi. No doubt they have to wash and the motzi and bench. Even though we careful not to eat so much of that mizonos bread, quote unquote. According to so going to if they get satisfied by the bread with the spread, they have to wash. Even they eat very little bit, but certainly when you eat 4 kibbetzim. Only very few of the God-fearing are careful when they're sitting on such a table, at such a table, not to eat too much, or they wash and work on a motzi of pastam and make a motzi on a regular piece of bread. Most Jews are not careful about this. But it's not proper to do that. We don't have the capacity to protest. Now he says in brackets, to try and justify the minhag oil. The other is that the rif seems to have a leniency. The conclusion is the hecha the achal law b'toras kisani, where you eat it as mezonos, mevarach b'nei mezonos. Hecha the achal law b'toras kisani, so if you eat it as a form meal, mevarach alei motzi, shalosh brachos, make a motzi in the 3 brachos. Akal shano. Mashma l'shon, from this language sounds that the anal totally b'shir kriyas asula. It has nothing to do with the shir. Rather than the way you eat it. Whether you were prepared to eat this as a snack, or prepared to eat it as a formal meal. It's known that in a real meal, you take off your overclothes, the suit jacket, the yoshvim, and sit around the table. But these smorgasbords, they grab and eat. As things are, that preparation, there's ochlin, mu'umad, people who eat standing, umalech, and walking, kayadua. Because so the say lo mikra kviyas suda. They hold this not goes kviyas suda. Uzeshu or Gemara kol shachem kovim. It says anything that other people make kviyas suda is a kviyas suda. So perush zeh ganke bobish kasavnu. I have to say that that's only if they're eating in the manner. Sitting down and being formal, that you would eat this as a suda. All those who are God-fearing remove themselves from this dubious leniencies for smorgasbord, and the God should forgive them, and they should wash before they begin the smorgasbord if they intend to eat a substantial amount of the mizonos.